Good morning, good morning, good morning. Sorry, caught myself on the hop slightly there. I can hear myself coming through my earphones. Let me just get myself ready. Get into character. There we are. I was still working. That's how busy I am at the moment, trying to get ready before I go off on holiday. Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you all doing this fine day? I hope you're all fit and well. How was your weekend? Are you feeling rested and ready to take up the good fight once again? No, me either. However, I think I have about 9 shows left before I head off on my hollybobs. So the end is now in sight. I will soldier on to the bitter end. Now, we have a proper mixed bag for you today, including at least one item you may not have seen before. In addition to that, we're also going to do that thing that us Brits do better than anybody. We're going to be talking about the weather and its impact upon construction workers. So let me know how the weather is where you are today, because it will impact what we're saying later on. But without further ado, and while I'm still playing catch up, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Now, for some reason, the question of the day didn't emerge, so let me try it again. There we go. It's worked this time. We'll come back to that in just a second. It is Monday, the 17th of July. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Hyundai unveils a new class of wheel loader. We're going to take a walk around the new Takeuchi TB335R compact excavator. And we get heated about climate change and its possible impact upon demolition and construction workers. Plus, how would you feel about a Bengali backhoe, a Lahore loader, or a Delhi dump truck? All makes sense in a second. We'll get to all of that in just a second. But first, let us peer back through the mist of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On this day in 1898, Spain declared war on the United States. How did that work out for them? In 1945, Harry Truman, Joseph Stalin, and Winston Churchill held their first post-World War II meeting. In 1954, construction of Disneyland began in Anaheim in California. Been there? Anybody else? In 1995, Bill Gates was recognized as the world's richest man. And on this day in 1967, a certain Ruth Nelson was born unto the world in Northampton. That young lady would grow up to be Mrs. Demolition News. Happy birthday, Ruth. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you of the question of the day. Yep, that's right. What is your greatest fear? I have several. My biggest, unquestionably, sharks. Even though it's my favourite film, Jaws has left a scar. And I'm just genuinely terrified of sharks, and not just when I'm in the water either. Also, I didn't learn to swim until I was about 14, so I have an irrational fear of drowning as well. I also have a deep fear of loneliness. Not the most sociable person in the world, but the thought of being entirely alone bothers me quite a lot. But how about you? What is your biggest fear? Let me know in the chat, and we'll come back to that at the end of the show. And we're going to start this week with some big news. Well, some big wheel loader news, actually. Those fine folks at Hyundai have unveiled a brand new wheel loader that sits at the very top of their equipment range, and it looks like a powerful addition. This is what she looks like. I'd love to take that for a spin. What about you? What do you reckon? Let me know in the chat. I'm just going to say a very quick good morning to our friend Jim Turner, who has just arrived, and to Ed Butler, who's just arrived as well. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Our question of the day is, what is your biggest fear? Already had some good and some very interesting answers on that. Please let me know in the chat. And I'm going to say good morning to our friend Mick Norton as well, who has also just joined us. Now, we need a little bit of this, I think. Takeuchi are a big deal in the world of little excavators. So when the company introduces a new model, it is well worth paying attention. Well, they've done precisely that, and we're going to give that new model a closer inspection. This is the TB335R from Takeuchi.
Hello, I'm David Caldwell, Product Manager with Takeuchi. We're excited to introduce you to the features and benefits of our TB335R short tail swing compact hydraulic excavator. The Takeuchi TB335R is available in two configurations, canopy and cab. The canopy weighs 7,970 pounds, while the cab has an operating weight of 8,310 pounds. It features a 24.4 horsepower engine, has a bucket breakout force of 9,172 pounds, and a dig depth of 10 feet 6.2 inches. The short tail swing design of the TB335R allows the operator to focus on their work, worrying less about rear swing impacts, making it ideal for working in areas with limited accessibility and applications such as construction, landscaping, rental, and utility. Looking at the front of the TB335R, you will see that it features a long arm equipped with an integrated thumb mount and a primary auxiliary circuit plumbed to mid-arm, delivering up to 17 gallons per minute. Cab models will also include a dedicated coupler circuit that terminates at a manifold located at the end of the arm. The top of the arm is enclosed, providing greater protection to the hydraulic lines. A heavy-duty steel boom has well-protected hoses and a boom cylinder guard for greater protection and durability. The boom swing enables the operator to dig offset to both the left and right sides of the machine without having to reposition. When coupled with the tight tail swing design, it allows the TB335R to work in confined spaces, along walls, and structures. The TB335R includes a standard backfill blade with float function, box frame design, well-protected cylinder, and segmented hydraulic lines. The design of this blade with its height and curvature ensures better material retention and keeps the material rolling to the front and away from the machine. Standard blade float helps with final finish and grade work. An optional angle blade with bolt-on cutting edge will angle 25 degrees to the left and right, making it ideal for backfilling and light finish work. Triple flange track rollers are standard equipment on the TB335R and provide better support of the track, improving track life, while also maintaining 2 points of contact, making it less susceptible to detracking. Load sensing step-down travel motors automatically shift to low range, high torque mode when turning, pushing, or traveling up an incline, and return to high speed, low torque mode when the load on the system is reduced. To adjust track tension, simply remove the steel guard to access the well-protected grease fitting on each side of the undercarriage. Proper maintenance is key to any machine's longevity. Ensuring maintenance and service work are easy to perform will decrease maintenance time and increase the likelihood that it is done correctly. With that in mind, the TB335R features a wide-opening rear engine service door and a right side cover that opens overhead. These features ensure easy access to key daily inspection points like the dual element air cleaner, coolant reserve tank, fuel filter, fuel water separator, engine oil filter and dipstick, cooling module, fuel tank, hydraulic oil sight gauge, and battery. All Takeuchi excavators are equipped with Takeuchi Fleet Management, or TFM. TFM is designed to remotely connect users to their Takeuchi machines. TFM will provide alerts, machine information including location, performance, and maintenance data, giving insights into where and how the excavator is being utilized. The operator station in the TB335R is spacious, comfortable, and provides excellent visibility. Both canopy and cab configurations feature an automotive-styled interior that includes one-touch buttons for various machine functions, full pilot controls that are low effort and precise, improving productivity while reducing operator fatigue, and a deluxe high-back suspension seat with adjustments for height, weight, fore, aft, tilt, and seat pan. Canopy configurations include a 4.3-inch high-definition multifunction color monitor, while cab models include a jog dial, 8-inch touchscreen multifunction monitor with integrated air conditioner, radio, and Bluetooth functions. These monitors allow the operator to observe machine vitals, adjust auxiliary flow, set up attachment presets, and set up multiple operator profiles. We would like to thank you for taking a look at the TB335R. For more information on this machine or any other Takeuchi product, please visit our website at takeuchi-us.com or visit your local dealer today.
There's a lot of love in the chat for Takeuchi. What are we saying about that new one, though, people? Is that new Takeuchi TB335R? Is it hot or is it not? Let me know in the chat. I'd love to get your feedback on that. You know that expression, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, if you have this kind of necessity, then the team at Drainfast have yet another new invention.
Welcome to Clientworks. It's Mark at Drainfast here, and we've got the gully muck stopper here. So this here, as you can see, is a cutaway demonstration of a standard road gully. And then what we've added is this muck stopper bucket here, which will collect all the dirt and debris and silt that pours into these road gullies and normally blocks them up. So this will be a machine lift when it's full, because it's quite heavy. You just go around and lift them out and empty them at a suitable time. So we've just made this, it's a gully bucket, but it's of a suitable size for the kind of amount of mud you're going to get on a building site. It's as simple as that. Normally to empty that, it would depend on how much mud there is on site. So during the heavy muddy time in winter, you might be changing that as often as every week or every 2 weeks. But during summer, maybe a lot less, so once a month or once every 2 months.
I have to say, Drainfast site stack products have been very popular on the show. What do you make of that? Good? Bad? Indifferent? Let me know in the chat. Got something a little bit unusual coming up for you next. So let me play one of these to get you ready for it.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Over the years, we have embraced construction equipment from very, very far-flung destinations. We embraced Japanese equipment, then equipment manufactured in South Korea. And while there's still some resistance, equipment from China is making bigger and bigger inroads. So with all that in mind, how would you feel about a Bengali backhoe, a Lahore loader, a Delhi dump truck, or a Hyderabad hydraulic excavator? I ask because of this.
The world is moving forward faster than ever before. We rise by lifting others. We open the doors to the future. And the future is here. We are the Bull Machines. top leader in manufacturing loaders and backhoes in its class and segment. We are more than a manufacturer. We help to accelerate your future in a better way. We are powered by 250 plus expertised engineers and 1,500 plus employees who are aligned with our vision of delivering uncompromised quality. At Bull Machines, quality is not just a word, it is our promise. Meticulous process and constant attention is given in every aspect of building the perfect machine, causable failures, all manufacturing problems. Quality is at the core of the way we build a machine, and it's constantly checked to be flawless before and after reaching our customers. We are making our footprint in more than 55 plus countries and counting more.
The Bull machines are brilliant. We deal with the customers on a daily basis. The feedback from them is astonishing.
My experience with the Bull machine is a very good machine. It's a very competitive price and a very strong machine.
The clients are very satisfied with the machines, and I think this is a very good machine, very good quality.
Bull machine product is good for the past 4 years we are selling. With product quality is good. I think it's more on European standard.
These machines are good machines. So from today on, you have to respect what the Indians are doing.
We strongly believe that every problem has its own solution within it. And we always come up with the game-changing solutions that inspire our customers. Fully optimized production processes and best-in-class innovative technologies allow us to deliver our product at cost efficiency to our customer. We carry out every single production step under our own roof. New challenges drive our learning and solution development. Each machine goes through rigorous tests before it goes out the door on its way to our distribution network to continue their journey to the customer. When it comes to connectivity, Bull Informatics help connect the machine and the man with an ease. Our global service support network provides reliable support that you can count on 24/7. We are building not just a machine. We are building a machine that builds the future.
At Bull, quality is just not a word. It's our DNA. We breathe quality. The second most important attribute of Bull DNA is our innovation ability and the speed at which we respond.
We are Bull.
As Jim Bowen used to say, we love a bit of bully. Mick Norton says, reference Bull, never let me try that again. Never underestimate the capability of the subcontinent of India. It's an interesting point because, as we all know, there are other manufacturers out there that are building in India already, JCB being one of them. One thing with that Bull backhoe, it would probably be a better paint job than the latest JCB, says Ed Butler. Ken Hatcher believes they've been copying JCB. I do wonder where all that came from. I wonder if there was a manufacturing agreement that came to an end and they carried on under their own name. The Bull has got nice horns, he says. Can't beat a good old JCB, but companies need to look at these brands more and more. Yeah, totally agree. Let's have a look. No, I think that's the end of that. So it must be time. Let me just get rid of that. Yeah. Sorry, the buttons aren't working as they're supposed to. It's time for one of these. I think it's safe to say that the climate change argument is now over. We're now at the point where heat waves happen with such regularity that we've apparently started to give them names. And when you name the latest one after the actual hounds of hell, the situation is surely no longer up for debate. It's been reported that around 62,000 people died as a result of the heat wave that swept across Europe last year. The arrival of Cerberus, the mega heat wave that has hit Greece, Spain and Italy, is expected to result in further heat-related deaths this summer. As a society, we've been aware of climate change for decades. Even those that have chosen to ignore the scientific evidence are aware of the notion of climate change. Now, as an industry, construction is perhaps more acutely aware of climate change than most. The vast majority of office blocks and commercial properties these days are built with air conditioning. In the house building sector, thermal insulation is now as much about keeping the heat out during the summer as it is about keeping it in during the winter. On the construction equipment side, in-cab air conditioning has changed from a nice-to-have to a must-have. Construction companies crow about their environmental awareness every bit as much as they crow about their gender equality and their mental health awareness. So, is the industry's awareness of climate change and its potential impact reflected in its care for its workers? The evidence suggests otherwise. Much as they were during COVID-19 or during the COVID-19 pandemic, construction workers are seemingly expected to just crack on regardless of what is going on with them with the weather. The nation is advised to stay hydrated, to avoid venturing out during the hottest part of the day, to wear sunscreen, and to be vigilant about the signs of sunstroke and heat exhaustion. Demolition and construction workers are handed a nylon vest and a plastic hat and sent out to work for 10 hours or more when the sun is beating down on them. And what if they do succumb? If a worker passes out through heat exhaustion, is that reportable under RIDDOR? If God forbid a worker actually dies from exposure to the sun, does the HSE record that as a construction-related death? Or is that consigned to a separate and unspoken list like suicide or mesothelioma? Is the industry now factoring the importance of hydration and sunscreen into their daily briefings and toolbox talks? It now seems that these exceptional heat waves are set to become an annual occurrence. Like Liverpudlians, the construction industry probably needs to develop a greater distrust and hatred for the sun. Meanwhile, perhaps now would be a good idea, a good time rather, to update the Noel Coward song. And it goes, at 12 noon, the natives swoon, and no further work is done. But mad dogs, Englishmen, and construction workers go out in the midday sun. Anyway, that's my gripe of the day. I'd love to hear yours. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your parsnips? The daily gripe therapy session will return in the not too distant future. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning show, but there's a hell of a lot going on over in the chat, so we're going to take a look at that. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before Leaping Gazelle. Like to see what you've all been saying. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around. The Craic will begin immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Good morning all, how are we doing? Let's turn that music down just a touch. Maybe a touch more. There we go. How are we all today? I'm going to flash on back to the very beginning. Dan Cullen was the first off the mark this morning. Good morning, Dan. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Gary Muirhead was next off the mark. Morning, Gary. He says, good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. Yes, good morning, gang. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Chris Ford is in the house, as is Peter McKenna. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's have a look. Good weekend had. Just a shame I have work this week. I know that feeling. Andy Darvell is with us again. Good morning, Mark. Back at it, throwing muck into dump trucks. I can think of the worst ways to spend your Monday morning. Steve Williams is in the house as well. Good morning, Steve. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Now, we do talk about the weather a bit later on, and there, Welsh Wales, Ken Hatcher reports, has got some sunshine. Good to hear. Chris, my apologies for the lack of hat when the show started. I was trying to get something written. It was an email, basically. Trying to get it written before the music stopped and I was on screen. The music ended just before I was expecting it. So, yeah, we caught up. So now you can see what I look like naked from the neck up. It's not pretty, which is why I wear all the garb. Kerry Jones is in the house. Morning, Kerry. Thank you very much for being here. That's better. Yes, the more my face that is covered, the better for all, I think. Mark Whiting's here as well. Morning, Mark. And let's have a look. Now, rattling through. It's been dry for 5 minutes. Well, this is the British summertime, so that's all you can hope for. So, my question of the day was this, although I screwed it up first time. What is your greatest fear? As I said, mine, sharks. Sharks all day long. Little sharks, big sharks, particularly big sharks, but sharks. Terrified. Absolutely terrified. But I threw this open to the audience. Question of the day. Peter McKenna says, not waking up. Yeah, okay, I can understand that. Ken Hatcher has got mixed sun and rain. Site is wet though. At least no dust though. That's a good sign. Question of the day. Man-made sponge? You're afraid of man-made sponge? Okay. Listen. There is a reason why the term irrational fear exists. My youngest daughter, Courtney, tattooed to the nth degree, got a huge back piece on her back, so not afraid of pain and discomfort. But if you want to freak my daughter out, touch one of her wrists. She has an irrational fear of her own wrists. Go figure. Graham Footy Williams is here as well. Good morning, nice to see you again. Good to see you as well. Happy birthday to my wife. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. I shall pass those on. In 1841, British humorous and satirical magazine Punch, published for the first time, finally closed in 2002. Yeah, I used to read that quite a bit, actually, back in the day. Question of the day. Underneath the seat, no thanks to Steve Williamson. If someone brushed my foot or leg, I'd be out of the water like a bullet. So it was genuinely Jaws that gave me this fear of sharks. And when I was 17 years old, I realised Spain is not rife with great white sharks. They have them, but then it's not exactly rife. But I went on holiday, my first overseas holiday, and my first overseas holiday full stop, but also my first overseas holiday on my own. Well, I say I was on my own. I was actually with my best mate, and we got bored one day laying on the beach, and there was a buoy. I don't know, must be maybe 100 yards offshore. So we decided we'll swim out to that, which we did. I was younger and much fitter back then. Swam out, and the buoy obviously was anchored, so there was a chain that kind of wound its way down to the seabed. At which, looking down at the chain, it suddenly became clear just how much water was below us, and that we didn't know what was down there. It probably took me maybe 10 minutes to leisurely swim out to the buoy. It took me about 45 seconds to swim back again. Absolutely terrified. Chris Ford, question of the day. Going to a pub with no beer. Oh, can you imagine? Ken Hatcher, spiders, snakes, and dying. Yeah, I think the dying one is a pretty common one. I did watch an old rerun of the show Gone Fishing the other day with Bob Mortimer and Paul Whitehouse, and they were talking about spiders and snakes and things. And one of the questions that Bob Mortimer asked, if you had 3 rooms, one with a snake, one with a spider, and one with a bear, which would you go in? Would you go in all of them apart from one with a bear, I would guess? Graham Williams, homelessness. Yeah, I can imagine that would be... and he goes on, being evicted with nowhere to go. Yeah, that particularly, I think if you've got family around you and they are reliant upon you, I guess. Ed Butler is in the house. Good morning, Ed. Star of last Friday's show. And Jim Turner's in the house as well. Morning, Jim. There is Mick Norton as well. Let's have a look. Kerry Jones, question of the day. Spending money. I have a meltdown every time I've got to touch my wallet. I can relate to that one. That's a beast. Good to see a decent engine being utilised. I think that was the Hyundai wheel loader. I think that was a Cummins engine, if I'm not very much mistaken. A lot of love this morning for the Takeuchi mini excavators. Steve Williamson says, Takeuchi, bomb-proof. You won't get a better mini digger, in my opinion. Praise indeed. Yeah, I have to say I have a bit of a hankering after Kubota machines, having worked with Kubota for quite some time, and I do like me a Bobcat Mini, but Takeuchi, pretty damn good. Ed Butler, it appears the dynamic duo agree. Won't go wrong with the Takeuchi, he says. Peter McKenna, I'm with you there, Steve, although a Bobcat machine is very good contender too. Well, we are in agreement. And there is Kerry Jones. I do like Takeuchi. I think we need to have more Takeuchi on the show. Back in the day, worked a lot with Takeuchi 360 for training and testing operators in a myriad of applications, says Mick Norton. Great design and breakout force. And in my view, virtually indestructible. It's interesting, I think, that I think a couple of people have said that. Indestructible, bomb-proof. Isn't it strange how some machines you just kind of assign traits to them? When you think Takeuchi, you do think indestructible. Personally, when I think Volvo excavators, I think classy. I don't know why. I don't know what makes them particularly classy. I'm sure Liebherr machines are equally classy. Anybody got any others? When you hear the name of a manufacturer, you just think, yes, that will be indestructible, bomb-proof, classy. Let me know. Takeuchi are great machines. We've had one for about 20 years, says Jim Turner. Nice looking interior for that size of machine. I think that's one of the things that I found really interesting. There used to be these 2 schools of thought, if you remember rightly. Hydraulic excavators, like maybe 14 tons and above, you were expected to have all mod cons, whereas mini excavators, you were lucky if you got a cab. But as the mini excavator has grown in popularity, I mean thousands upon thousands and being sold each year in the UK now, I think our expectations have increased. So now it's not just a case of a canopy will do. We want a cab. We want an air-conditioned cab. We want an air-conditioned cab with Bluetooth and all the things that go with it. Changing expectations. Looks a nice machine, says Ken Hatcher. Dan Colorado says that looks a wonderful piece of kit, and he also says it's a hot machine. Yes, it's hot. Slight detraction. The only thing I don't like about the Takeuchi is the colour. That grey doesn't age well. Or grey and red rather doesn't age well. There are certain yellows that don't seem to age well. The old JCB yellow, I think, used to age quite poorly. Not so much now, but certainly used to. Ken Hatcher says hot. Steve Williamson, 100% hot as well. Steve Williamson, I get the idea, but you need a dedicated guy to look after them. That was the gully thing from Drainfast. Ken Hatcher says, we've got round gullies. I'm fairly sure they've got that thought of as well. Peter McKenna says, when I was driving road sweepers, I always mentioned something like that. The site managers were not interested. Gully bucket is sound. It will still need a bit of silk barrier trapping between the ironwork, or it'll be full in no time. Yeah, absolutely. And again, Ed Butler, that's a good idea for the drains. I like that. Yeah, the ball machines. Yeah, I was just browsing over the weekend, and you do tend to be drawn oddly to places like Japan and South Korea and obviously America and so on down the line. So when I saw that from an Indian manufacturer, I thought, I'll take a look. And I have to say, I was suitably impressed. They're obviously producing machines in some magnitude and in some quantity. Found it interesting that, I mean, obviously to date, they've been sold mainly into places like Africa and the Far East and Southeast Asia and stuff. But I wonder, has anybody ever actually spotted a bull machine further this way, Europe-wise? I don't think I've ever actually seen them at one of these major exhibitions. Probably need to keep an eye out for that. Peter McKenna with Dad Joke of the Day, what a load of bull. And he goes on to explain, I mean, there were lots of them in that video. Yeah, fair comment. In my youth, says Mick Norton, I always feared I would never be able to realise my full potential. Later life, I discarded that fear when I realised all things don't pan out as expected. Well, that second part is certainly the case. I have to admit, and I was a cocky swine when I was younger. I mean, some would argue that I'm not much different now. I kind of went for the Muhammad Ali approach. When asked about being the greatest, he said, you know, I figured if I told people I was the greatest long enough and often enough, sooner or later they'd believe me. That's been my motto since I was about 15 years old. Anybody that listened, they would believe I was God's gift to everything, pretty much. Still trying to prove it, but yeah, I did the hype first and worried about the backup second. Can't beat a good old JCB3CX. No, you can't. Companies need to look out these brands. Yeah. If you were not even if you were starting, but let's say if you were starting a plant hire company today and you decided that you wanted to compete on price, you would think about some Chinese machines perhaps, and possibly even some Indian machines, so long as you could get the backup. And that obviously is a stumbling block that we've seen. But when you look at like the second coming of Sunwood, Chinese manufacturer, when they first made landfall here in the UK maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they were sold sort of one at a time. There was no backup. Any backup actually had to come from China. It was slow, it was laborious, and it was a pain in the rear end. Look at it now. You've got a big setup over in Belgium. You've got, 24-hour turnaround on parts. Sunwood all of a sudden become a viable option. Will they be bullying the top brands for top spot? Not soon, but I mean, the Indians, it's an interesting question. The Indians have got exactly the same thing as the Chinese have got. They've got a huge domestic market. You look at XCMG, and I realise the UK, by comparison, is quite a small market, but XCMG have only been effectively represented in this part of the world here in the UK for about 3 weeks. But they are the third biggest manufacturer of construction equipment in the entire world, based almost entirely upon their domestic market. Well, there is 1 billion plus Indians. They have a huge road and infrastructure program that's going on at the moment. They will be selling machines like they're going out of fashion. They will be knocking off the rough edges. They will be perfecting the equipment as well. And I would imagine there'll be a lot of overseas companies that are going to India to be part of that infrastructure and road program. They will then be exposed to the Bull brand and could quite easily bring it back with them. Be interesting to see. Have they been copying JCB? Obviously. I mean, a backhoe loader looks pretty much like a backhoe loader, but we've certainly seen that in the past where there's been badge engineering going on. So a company wants to build in another location because it's cheaper and to suit that local market. That manufacturing agreement comes to an end and the company carries on under their own name rather than the brand they originally did to deal with. Interesting times, though. One thing that bought backhoe, it will have to be have a better job than the latest JCB. Okay. Never underestimate the capability of the subcontinent of India. Yeah, and again, I mean, I think us Brits tend to look at India through kind of jaded eyes and stuff. But bearing in mind, India is now one of the technology centres of the world. Some of the best, certainly computer engineering minds in the world are right there in India. So things like their telematics could well be every bit as good as what we've got. One thing that Bull backhoe probably have a better paint job than the latest JCB. Makes more sense the second time around. The Asian and African backhoe markets are just taking off, so they're going to take off. Yeah, and imagine by the time that backhoe loader market has matured in Africa and Asia, they would have sold so many, they will have backed up so many, they will have learned so much that the machine that they end up with in maybe 10, 15, 20 years' time, I reckon it will be on a par. The modern day Royal Enfield motorcycle built under license in India is far better than the 250cc Royal Enfield Clipper I had as a 17-year-old in the UK in the early 1960s. Yep, absolutely right. Absolutely right. On my sites, we have to wear fire retardant clothing and glasses. It's heavy and non-breathable in the hot weather. We just get told to drink plenty of water. There was a couple of points I wanted to make on that. The first, obviously, was welfare, and I'm gonna mention this because it's kind of in keeping. So at not the last, no, it was the last Hillhead. My son Fred, because we were really busy on the opening day, didn't have a drink until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. No water, no nothing. We finished about 5:30. We went back to our accommodation and he literally collapsed through heat exhaustion. He was we got him plenty of drink on board. Following morning he was as right as ninepence, but actually collapsed through lack of hydration. So obviously the first and foremost, stay hydrated, avoid the sun as much as you can, although things like fire retardant clothing, nylon vests and jackets and hard hats, hard hats make my head sweat like nobody's business. So all of that. But the other thing that occurred to me with this thing with climate change, we've obviously had a degree of seasonality to parts of this industry, like there is a road construction or a paving season. There is also a muck shifting season, obviously when it's not too wet and so on down the line. What becomes of those seasons now? We used to try and cram as much paving into the year during a couple of months because that was when it was best. Has that become extended? Muck shifting, you'd kind of want to get your major muck shifting out of the way by September, October. Does September, October now become November, December? Do you work right through? Be interested if you could let me know. Much the same as a lot of industries, people that work in foundries and mass food production and HGV drivers, van drivers are in much the same boat. They are. The one thing I would say, foundries, nothing I can say about that. But when you think about mass food production, you're talking about big airy spaces for one thing. HGV and van drivers, a lot of modern vehicles have aircon. And ultimately you can open the window and have that. If you're working in construction, think back not so long ago, and I think we're maybe a bit more aware as a society now, but you used to see guys working on the roof of buildings, stripped to the waist, never mind the PPE, always had a fantastic suntan, I was always concerned for their safety, but they always had a fantastic suntan. Obviously, we're now covering up because we are aware of the potential of skin cancer and stuff like that. But you are working, I mean, if you're working in construction, if you're working on site, imagine something like HS2. You're talking about 20-odd thousand people who are working under the blazing sun, day in, day out, being required, and I understand the requirement, and I'm not arguing with that, but a plastic pot on your head, nylon vest, full length sleeves, full length trousers, because shorts are frowned upon as well. You are going to bake. You're going to bake. And I think one of the things that we don't seem to have done is redress what we consider the limitations. And I remember, I can't remember what the temperature was, but I remember when I was a kid at school, you prayed for really, really cold days because there was a certain threshold where if it got too cold, you were sent home. So, a lot of snow, a lot of ice. You'd pray and pray and pray, and the school would get in touch and say, no, the school is closed, it's too cold, and we'd all go out and have a big snowball fight. I would guess there is probably an upward limit as well. So if it gets too hot in a workplace or at a school or whatever it might be, the same rules would apply. We've, as a nation, certainly here in the UK, we've been used to temperatures. If it gets up to 25 degrees, we're having a good day. If it gets up to 30, you're all sort of fanning yourself and talking about, blimey, it's hotter than it is in Spain. Last year it got to 40, and it could go higher still. What are the goalposts now? Do we have an upward limit where we just say, no, that's too much, that's too much? And I realise we would never get this past the powers that be. But when you look at countries like Spain, like Italy, Portugal, they love a siesta. Now, you could say that they are lazy. I don't agree, but you could say they're lazy. But the truth was, the siesta was basically get out of the midday sun, go be somewhere cool, chill out, and then come back to work. Now, in years gone by, that would have made sense in countries like Spain, Italy, and Portugal, where the temperature again was in maybe the high 20s, low 30s. We're there now, and they're even higher, and yet we don't seem to have been taking that into account. Anybody's got any thoughts? Let me know. The market of backhoes has never had so much choice, but it's a dying market in the UK. Be interested to see how they drive though. Yeah, I keep reporting on that, and I know the sales levels are down for backhoe loaders, and yet, do I believe that there is a single machine as versatile as that? I do not. And I understand, the dedicated mini excavator. I understand the dedicated telehandler or wheel loader. I understand all of that. But if the world suddenly woke up tomorrow and realised that I was really, really crap at this, and I had to go and get myself a job as an owner-operator, I would look no further than a 3CX, because I could do pretty much everything. Yes, you'd have your quick couplers, you'd have all your array of attachments, but with a 3CX, not much you can't do construction-wise. Being buried alive, says Ed Butler. Oh yeah, has anyone ever seen the old film? My guess is it probably would have been from the 50s. Called Buried Alive. Trying to remember the name of the star. Ray Milland, I think was the star. Probably very dated now, but that he has this irrational fear because apparently there is something in his family's DNA. Apparently his father or somebody in the past had been buried alive, and they had this big mausoleum, and as a child he'd heard what he believed were scratching noises, and when they actually go and open up his father's coffin, sure enough he'd been scratching to get out. So Ray Milland basically puts in place all these systems so that should it happen to him, he can get out. And then the systems fail. Go look it up. It's old, dated, but very good. The HSE give excellent guidance to employers rather. Check out the latest HSE checklist, temperature assets and stuff. I'm going to go and look at that. I was reading one from America today as well. Question of the day, Gary Muirhead. Snakes expressly on a plane. I'm sick of those mother planes on this mother plane. Sam Jackson, don't you just love him, mate? Question date. Mine is not being able to get out of bed, being disabled. Do you know I have a recurring nightmare? I have two, actually. I have over the years had several recurring nightmares, but I have two now. One, I'm driving while I'm asleep. I'm driving, and for some reason I can't open my eyes. And I know I'm driving, and I know there are other cars, and I know there are people, but I can't force my eyes open. That's one. And then I've got another one, and Lord alone knows where this one's come from. The tendons on the backs of my knees in my dream shrink, so that I can't actually straighten my legs. So I wish I could demonstrate. So rather than having straight legs, my legs are bent, and I'm having to, weird, get it a lot. Takeuchi 8-ton is an unbelievable machine, says Dan Cullen. Wouldn't argue with that one bit. Have you managed to pin down Dr. Terry about an interview, or is he still on holiday? I've kind of given up. I've got to be honest, I've kind of given up. We just keep trying and keep trying to get dates together, and we just haven't managed, I'm afraid. Next time I'm at an IDE event, I will take him to one side and see if we can do something. I even tried sort of coming up with, here's an array of dates, choose one of those. I also said, why don't we do it the first week of the first Friday of every month? None of it worked. So, no, that's held in abeyance at the moment. The Takeuchi TB335R that connector was a great machine. Only thing we both said was that the slew had a lot of play compared to the other machines we've used at the demos, making it harder to stack the blocks. Interesting. Mostly diggers. Good morning to mostly diggers. Plant hire fleet tendencies say a lot. Lots of Kubota and Takeuchi machines. Yeah. Funnily enough, I can see that from both sides. Neither Takeuchi or Kubota are the cheapest, which I know plant hirers tend to like the lower end of the market, but both of those I would consider to be probably premium products. But if you can say the same about Kubota as you can about Takeuchi, i.e. they're bomb-proof, you're probably getting maximum uptime and maximum return on your investment. Takeuchi 1, Devil 2, Bobcat 3, Kubota 4, my top machine, says Dan Cullen. Yeah, okay. I personally, I'd put in Kubota tippity top, I think, but just me, and I don't drive them for a living. I used to be a retained firefighter. Seeing what I've seen being burnt alive is my biggest fear. Yeah, I can believe that. Our friend Mostly Diggers, some will take some of the market, I'm sure. No question. And when I saw them the first time, and I'm probably going back 5 or 6 years, when they first made landfall in the UK, my initial thought was they are a bit basic. They don't have a lot of bells and whistles. There's a bit too, they're a bit too boxy and, typical first generation. We saw the same with the Japanese, saw the same with the Koreans, we saw the same with the Chinese. The Sunwald machines at Plantworks this year are on a par with anything. Really, really good machines. And as I say, now they've got the backup. If Carlsberg built excavators, top of the league for truly indestructible, must be the old Ackerman 360. Ackerman 360, that does take me back. Now, years and years ago, I'll say years and years ago, it must be probably 4 or 5 years, I actually did a poll on our Instagram page of what was the ultimate excavator. And we did it like the World Cup. So we did a random draw, and the first round was JCB against Hitachi and so on down the line. And we whittled it down. Well, the ultimate winner of that was Caterpillar. And I have no question that Caterpillar makes some very good machines. But I did get the impression that the results on that were skewed by the fact that our biggest audience on Instagram is American, and the Americans love their Caterpillars and their Cases and their John Deeres. If I can figure out a way to do that here, live and in person, maybe we could start to do that. What is the best mini excavator? Vote here. I can do a randomizer. I'm not sure I've actually got a poll capability, but let me go and have a look, and well, not now, obviously, but I'll go and have a look and see what I can come up with, because I think that would make for interesting reading. In Scotland, you get no muck shifting done at all if you went with the seasons. You just have to put in better haul roads, etc. Fair comment. Bobcat 85 out, Cat 308 in. Be an interesting comparison. Yeah, well, back in the day, back when I was on the magazines, we used to do what we referred to as the diggings with Contract Journal, my old magazine back in the late 80s. And I've said this before, you'd get 5, 10, sometimes 12 different machines side by side, and you'd check them for productivity, fuel consumption, specification, the whole kit and caboodle. And unfortunately, because magazines are very much advertising led, we basically killed them, because while you would make one manufacturer very happy, you'd make 11 other manufacturers very, very unhappy, and they would threaten to remove their advertising. I don't have to worry about that anymore. So maybe if we could do sort of side-by-side comparisons. I've always, in actual fact, I've actually thought about doing like a top trumps. Those of you of a certain age might remember top trumps cars from back in the day. Top trumps for various types of equipment: skid steer loaders, mini excavators, wheel loaders, dump trucks, excavators, and so on down the line. Comparing like with like, and maybe it becomes, I don't know, let's say we do it on top trump Thursday or something like that. And on a Thursday, for over a period of 8-9 weeks or whatever, we just take a different type of machine and we say, okay, in this sector, be it excavators or wheel loaders or dump trucks, what is the prime machine? What is the one to beat? And even setting aside things like personal preference, like, think about this as an example, dump truck wise. Caterpillar make a fantastic ADT. They really do. Fantastic ADT. Liebherr make a fantastic ADT, the TA230. Demolition make a fantastic ADT. Hyundai make a fantastic ADT. What's the one they all want to beat? Volvo. There does seem to be that recognised dozers. If you're thinking big dozers, and I have nothing but respect for Akamatsu and for Liebherr, but if I was going for a big dozer, Caterpillar all day long. I'd be interested to see what you'll make of that. Setting aside your personal preference, what do you believe to be the kiddie, as it were? No, Takeuchi are from cheap now, but premium product. Question 8: as I approach 80, trusting a fart. Yeah, that is a fear. That is a fear. I used to love the wee Pell Job mini excavator from years ago. Pell Job. Wasn't that bought by Volvo? Fairly sure that was sorted up by Volvo back in the day. In the 1980s, when road building with the Amanis in the empty quarter, sounds like something out of a science fiction franchise. The ground temperature often reached an impressive 52 degrees Celsius. Because of our heat, our work hours were 3 a.m. to 10 a.m., but even the Amanis still suffered heat exhaustion. Yeah, now, to be perfectly honest, I was half expecting somebody to say, when I was talking about, siestas and having to adjust our working practices to accommodate higher temperatures, I was expecting somebody to throw in, if you're working in the Middle East or if you're working in Africa, that's just something you put up with. But the locals are used to that. Here in the UK, a temperature of 25 degrees is pretty oppressive. A temperature of 30 degrees is very oppressive. So the moment we get above 30 and we start approaching 40, something's got to give. And as I say, I always liken it, when you look at how you're treated as society and how you're treated as an industry. Like, I will, at some point in the next couple of weeks, probably, I'll be going into London and I'll do the same thing that I always do. I'll catch the train at the end of the road and then I'll jump on a tube train to get me to the part of London that I want to be at. There will be advisory announcements. There'll be signs up: stay hydrated, grab a bottle of water, blah, 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 blah. Are people doing that on site? And I know some sites are. I was on a Rob Collard demolition site a few years back where they actually had a chart in the toilet, the site toilet, like a colour chart. And if If your pee was that color, you were hydrated. If it was that color, you were less than hydrated. And if it was that color, you needed to go and get yourself a drink on board pretty quickly. But that's the first and only time I've ever seen that. Hats off to Rob Gallard for doing it. But is anybody else doing that? Or are we just expected to crack on? My Yamaha Mini Vio 17 to Vio 50 been bulletproof. Yanmar, it's another fantastic brand, totally. And I don't know how we managed to overlook Yanmar just now. As I say, I don't get to pick and choose because I don't get to drive them very often. But certainly Yanmar would be in my top 3 or 4 without question. And maybe I'm leaning on Kubota purely because I used to work with them. Maybe it's that. Right, people, that's an hour and 2 minutes, hour and 3 minutes actually. So go and go. Go and enjoy the sunshine. After all that I've just said, go and enjoy the sunshine because, you know, never mind the health advice. That's the way we're going to do it. Yes, go and enjoy the sunshine. I hope you've got somewhere you are. I'll be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. for more of the Breakfast Show and probably something else to bitch and whine about because I do have a tendency. Until then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for the birthday wishes for my good lady wife, who will be back in just a minute, and I will be passing those on to her. Till I see you again, have a great day. All the best.